My name is Bruce Helford, and I'm an executive producer and one of the co-creators of the show. I sat down with Kevin and we started talking about what he wanted to do. And I've always been, almost all of my shows have been about blue collar people. I consider blue collar people the nobility, the working class, to be the nobility of the United States. It's like the people who work the hardest, who sacrifice the most, and I very much look up to those people. That's how I grew up. I grew up with nothing, and I was fortunate enough to develop something. And so when he started talking about doing a retired cop who then goes back to his family and he's got to deal with all these things, I was thinking I can relate to all that very much, and the idea of people who work hard finally get that chance, that moment to relax. And for cops who retire earlier in life, they usually, if they do 20 years, they're out by 45. Oh my God, what a wonderful opportunity. And then, oh yeah, they got a family I have to deal with, and that's going to bring things down to earth a little bit. So yeah, I just really related to the idea, and that made me excited. Well, you've got. I don't want to give too much away, but you've got Kevin, obviously, who worked hard as a Nassau County cop for the last 20 years, and he's seen the roughest side of the world, and so he's a dad with a bit of an edge and a difference to what he thinks and how he deals with his kids. He's got an older daughter, Kendra, who's coming in from college. He's got two younger kids, a 10-year-old son who's very much in his head, very much aware of himself, a little bit of an anxious kid, very funny. He's got a daughter who's a little bit older, and she's a sports person. She's kind of like built a little like him, and she's got that athletic attitude. She's a challenger. He's got a wife who came from a little bit different background than he did. But she fell in love with the warmth of him and his family, and who he is, and she kind of adopted his life, and at the expense of kind of moving away from her past, where she had a little bit more in life. We've got his friends who are he and his buddies all retire, because like when the cops go to the academy, they graduate together. So these guys are retiring together. So there's four best buddies, and this is their chance to shine, and they're all going to do it together. So you've got, and they're a little bit, cops they risk themselves a lot and all that. So they're kind of like jackass boys, but they're jackass boys at 45, where they want to try and do everything crazy. And we experience a little bit of that in the show too. So really, it's about his life with his buddies and this crazy retirement dreams, and also finding out that at home there's a lot of things going on. He's been working hard as a cop, and he's finding out what things that there have been going on he hasn't been able to deal with, and now he's going to. So, and his firefighter brother, and there's always a thing between firefighters and cops, like who's tougher, who's braver, and all that stuff. So that's really fun, and Gary's very funny. Oh, the tone and feel is off the cuff, kind of sarcastic, and it's a warm family. One thing about the show is this is really a family show. This is a show that the whole family can sit down and enjoy, but it's got enough edge to keep everybody in the room, and it's also got enough heart to keep everybody else in the room. Well, what do you call it? The things that are going on, like especially people retirement. People are retiring older, sometimes not retiring, and they're finding that their retirements are different than they expected they'd be. And you've got a generation of millennials that are not working, and there's things that they've got to be dealing with, and what the kids need. So what we're seeing in this is kind of the clash of what was going on in the country and what's coming up in the country. So you're seeing him dealing with problems that are real current problems for lots of families. And at the same time, he's a traditional guy who's trying to hold his values together as he sees the world changing. I think this is going on everywhere in the world. And the other thing that's going to be great is Kevin is an international star from his movies, so he's automatically recognizable. So which is great for those audiences. Not to mention also that King of Queens was a show that showed internationally and did very well, and still does, still out there. So I think that when they watch a show, I've always wondered when internationally they see a show and they don't recognize the guy. Does that have an effect? But when they see Kevin, they go, okay, I know this guy from lots of things. I have a general idea of who he is, and it lets you enjoy the show immediately. So, and it's also very relatable. It's a family. And it's a family that's happening all over the world, and these problems are happening all over the world. At this point in time, it's so early, but I would say there's lots of people that Kevin and I know, international people that I'm very familiar from my previous shows with a lot of international stars from South America and Mexico that I would love to have come out and join us and play with us. There are a lot of people that Kevin knows. I mean, I think that we'll probably be seeing some surprise people from foreign faces we all know. The first episode is really about someone who has a dream of a glorious retirement. He's planned on it for 20 years. From the first day of working, I know what I want to do. And he and his buddies have planned this. And then when they get to that moment, it's not quite what they expected. They've all got these family obligations that are different than when they had 20 years ago. They've got problems in their families that are different than what they had 20 years ago, but they still are going to find a way to merge things. And they're going to have their fun, but they're not going to give up their responsibilities, and it's the clash of that. As far as the story arcs, we're going to follow Kevin and his guys as they try to, despite their responsibilities at home, get out to do some crazy things and have some fun with that. Each of the individual guys has their own issues. There's Duffy, who's a single guy at 45, and what's he going through, in Long Island. Also, a lot of this has a Long Island feel to it. So you're going to see some of the locations. You're going to feel a real sense of neighborhood with this show. They're going to see some of the things that kids are going through. You've got a 10-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 20-year-old, and those are all peak periods for crazy problems. And whether it's puberty or it's starting or what starting to worry about popularity, or whether it's college and trying to establish your independence, you've got so much to deal with there. And like some of the greatest comedies, like All in the Family or Roseanne or all those shows, this is dealing with it on a real level and with a naturalistic feel. My favorite moment of the show is very personal. We deal with a product called Gyro Bowl. Gyro Bowl is a bowl that doesn't spill. It's got a gyroscope, and I actually bought these. I watched the infomercial, and I bought a bunch of them, and I had some adventures with them, and we kind of explore that on the show. So it's my own personal experience, kind of woven in there a little bit. People are going to be talking about, did you see that thing on the thing, and then hashtag the thing, and then people hashtag that thing, get to the Twitter thing, and they'll move to the other thing. I think that the wonderful thing now that didn't exist when I first started in this business is that you have a sense of, like, we would sit around the house and talk about a show. Now everybody talks about those things, and there's a bigger, massive communication. And the whole reason we do this is you want to make the most amount of people laugh. You want to tell your stories. You want the most amount of people to see what. And so it's a wonderful thing to have all that outreach, and also for the actors who I'm sure will be twittering and everything else will be also involving themselves with this thing. So there's a lot of interplay. It's pretty wonderful.